Okay, good afternoon guys and welcome to another TA update. It is the 28th of January 2022 and it's just gone 3 PM here in the UK and UTC. So we'll start with the Bitcoin chart here. You can see here from the corner of my screen that you can see that very much the whole of the traditional TradFi, if you like, the traditional finance legacy markets are all in the red. Okay, so perhaps unsurprisingly, only a few points, but unsurprisingly Bitcoin is also in the red a little bit. So, but anyway, we start here with a Bitfinex chart, and the reason why I'm looking at this chart is because there's a slight discrepancy in terms of volume profile, like I showed you guys last on Wednesday, I think it was, on the last TA update. And I better just check actually, let me just check a little bit quick that this is all working in terms of sound and image. Yeah, it all seems to be working fine. That's great. Okay, if you guys got any questions, please post them in the YouTube chat and I'll try and get to them as soon as possible. But yeah, otherwise I'll just crack on. So essentially what I'm saying is that this chart has a few discrepancies in relation to the Bybit chart that I usually chart on. So we'll have a look at that for now. What I wanted to show you is this. It's basically the volume profile. Okay, so in terms of volume profile, you can see that the great majority of the volume is down here, and in even though we've traded up here for quite some time, you can see that there's not a lot of volume there. And even when I take it off the logarithmic, you can see that the great majority of the volume is this consolidation here that went all the way from 2019 to 2020. Of course, that's a whole year of data, and I mean there's been a year of data here, but there's a lot more swings going on there. It's a little bit more sparse in terms of swings, and even though we had the March COVID dump here as well, but the swings seem to be a little bit tighter here. So that's perhaps why there's so much volume down here. Okay, so why am I showing you this? Because essentially we are within the parameters of this volume cluster here, this balance area, and we've kind of bounced here on the value area high, if you like. This, so this is the value area high. Let me just put a little line there. I don't want to complicate things too much, but you can see that where the gray meets the blue there, that's the value area high, and that's more or less where we've bounced now. Okay, so so that's great. We've bounced there, and it seems like we've kind of managed to stay within this balance. Okay, the problem that I envisage, and this is why I'm showing you this chart, is because as you can see where all these blue lines are, which is basically where the low volume nodes are. Okay, I'm going to put that one there as well. I'm going to make that one blue. These is essentially, there's hardly any volume down there, especially between $28,000 and $20,000. Okay, so within this area here. Okay, so if it's got very low volume here, it should act as support, right? But if the price decides to go through it, it'll go through it very quick, and just in the same way that it did here. Okay, the reason why it's a low volume is because it went so quick through that level, through that area. Basically just unwilling participation between $20,000 and $28,000. Okay, it just rallied there very, very quickly, and it left a little bit of residual liquidity, but not much, and it's just a void, a gap, if you like, in terms of volatility, in terms of volume. So that is a bit of a problem, because a void like this, the price can travel very quickly through that. So so just bear that in mind as we're going along, and as it looks like we are getting acceptance within this volume cluster here, which is essentially I'm going to make it in purple here, so that you can see that this is this volume cluster here, and you can see that the price rotated up and down, went up, came back within, stayed within, came back, tested it as support, and now we're kind of right in the middle of it. We haven't tested the top yet, around about $41,000, $42,000 yet, and the bottom of that is around about $30,000 as well. So we are essentially within this high volume cluster here, and we should be just rotating sideways inside it. Okay, we can either break to the upside or break to the downside, but if we break to the downside, there's a big problem because it's such a low volume, and this is why I was showing you this chart. Okay, so now I'm going to show you a different chart, which I also did. I think it was on this is the Bitstamp one, so I beg your pardon. I think this one was on Wednesday that I showed you guys. And just bear with me a second. Okay, and I think I've got a fixed range volume profile here as well. Where did I do that? No, perhaps I should have prepared a little bit better. No, it's not on this chart, so I do apologize for that. So maybe it was on this one from the 1st of January 2021. Let's have a look. Yes, it was actually. So there we are. So essentially what I wanted to show you is that if I was to put this volume profile from the 1st of January 2021 to now, it gives us those three distributions of volume there, okay? And you can see that clearly, and this is the purple one is the one that we're in at the moment. But you can see also that the point of control, the most volume traded within this price action here since the 1st of January 2021 was indeed, the point of control was indeed at around about $33,000, $33,300, and that's exactly where the price has bounced. So from that perspective, it does look a little bit better on Coinbase, on Bitfinex. It does look like we've reached the point of control, and this is holding us up as support. So essentially what we want to see now is this to break market structure to go up to the upside. Of course that's ambitious, and it really all depends on the participation level, and with all the boomer markets and the traditional finance markets in turmoil, with the interest rates being hiked in March, the uncertainty with the COVID thing and the war and everything else, that all the hegemony that's going on in the news, if you turn on the TV, it's just pandemonium. So everybody's very bearish, so I doubt very much that we'll find the willing participants to take this up to the upside. But of course I'm willing to be wrong, and if we see something like this, if we see this get to the top here and break this market structure, essentially this high here, and it prints a higher high, that's a good sign, okay? Even if it comes all the way back down here and prints a higher low, just like I said on Wednesday, I'd still think that this is very bullish, okay? Of course here I'd be taking a short, and I'd be looking to take longs and find out where it curls up, okay? So it could curl up there, or it could even curl up here, okay? So we'll have to wait and see. But essentially what I want to see is a show of strength. At the moment I'm not seeing that show of strength, I just see continuation, okay? Lower highs and lower lows. So let's go back to the Bybit chart, which is basically where I usually chart. And I just wanted to show you, I've got pretty much a naked chart here. I didn't really put any indicators yet. So let's bring some indicators, and I'm going to show you first the price action setup. I've got these all organized in different ways. I'm going to show you first the price action setup, which is a little bit more complex. I don't want to go into it, but essentially what we're seeing is that we're bouncing off order blocks here. We haven't tapped the supply yet. We've just tapped the demand and confirmed that demand is indeed there, and there is a residual liquidity at these levels. But here on the daily chart, it's very clear that we need to break above this weekly supply if we are to get a chance to break up to the upside, okay? So this first weekly supply is around about $42,000, and then the next one is around about $46,000. The weekly demand and the 4-hour order block that I'm looking at is around about $32,000, something like that. And of course the range high and the range low of this overall range, if you like, this is the SFP when we got to the upside swing failure pattern, and so the range low is around about $28,800. Okay, there's already equal lows printed there, so I wouldn't be surprised to see a third tap of that and then this rally. But usually where we see a run on the liquidity, so it'll probably come and take, especially if we start printing a bottom like we did here, it'll come below to take the liquidity of the stops, and once it takes the stops, it goes up. Again, the problem, and this ties me to what I was trying to tell you guys, is that obviously there is hardly any volume down here all the way to 20,000, right? So this whole area here is pretty much a void in volume. So what does that tell you? That tells you that if there is a run on liquidity, this wick could be very violent, okay? So if I was you guys, I would put some limit orders down here, for example. So let's say one at $20,000, another at 23. I'm not a financial advisor, I'm not telling you what to do. But this is just for entertainment and educational purposes. But if I was to bet that there's a liquidity run and then a big cascading liquidation, the cascading liquidation, or the cascading candle, if you like, big wick, could run very, very far. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Okay, so if you're going to set some limit orders, take that into consideration. I'm looking at this area here as a bounce, and that's a high probability trade in my opinion, purely because this is untapped. It's an FTR that's been untapped, and it's also the 200-week moving average. So that's something to take in consideration, and I've already showed you that on a different chart as well, so I'm not going to go into it. But so yeah, that's essentially the price action setup. This is a little bit more actionable on the shorter time frames. I don't want to go into it, but this is essentially, you can pause the video and you can see what it is that I'm looking at in terms of market structure and what we need to see happen. Okay. However, I like to look at the macro HVEs, so that's basically the high volume nodes and the high volume cluster of these volume zones. Okay. So essentially, like I said to you guys before, I just get the volume profile for the year, right? Something like that. All right. So in fact, here what I've done, bear with me a second. I've put the volume profile way back. So let me put it back to the 1st of December, 1st of January, sorry, 2021, and you can see now what it is that we're doing here. Okay, so you see there's one volume cluster, another one volume, and another one there, and I've put 3 rectangles there just so that it makes it easy to identify, and we are essentially in the middle of one of the clusters. Okay, we did bounce here. If you look at the weekly chart, it's a nice little order block there, so you can see that if I put a little line there, you can see that that's exactly where we bounced there. Okay, so you can see that the price tapped there twice and we rallied from there. So does this mean that we're not going to come back down? Well, not necessarily, but the order block did its job, and there is definitely liquidity willing to buy at those levels. So I don't know if it will sustain a big sell order, but we'll have to wait and see. So anyway, going back to the daily, all I'm seeing is that we're back within this balance area, this lower balance area, and now we're just looking for rejections. So essentially what we want to see is the price, if it goes up, then we expect this to be sold, okay, and if it goes down, we expect this area to be bought. It's as simple as that. You buy at the lows, you sell at the highs, right? But where does that invalidation come in? So let me just run you through the setup first. I think if we go up here, this is around about $41,000, $42,000. There is a strong possibility that we get rejected from this balance area, right? So if we do, then here or even here, this is the confirmation. In fact, let me just correct this. We could go as high as here, $42,000, and then just roll over, right? So essentially what you want to see is that you want to see a rejection of this cluster here, and then just re-entering this balance area. So this is an aggressive short at the top, but you could also enter a short down here. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not telling you what to do with your money. I'm just saying what I would do. Okay, so you can wait for confirmation, be a little bit more conservative in your approach, and still bet on a short, especially if we start rolling over. That's essentially basically just printing a lower high. Okay, so this is a high, and we've just printed a lower high, and essentially we expect to print a lower low, which would possibly be around about here. So that would be your target. Okay, of course, that's one scenario. That's the bearish case scenario. We could also just do something like this, start hovering here, and then just rally up, right? So if we broke this market structure, this was the previous high, we just broke that, then now we're going to see where the pullback, what type of pullback do we get, if we get any pullback at all, to enter along, right? Because there's a break in market structure. So essentially I'd like to see a little comeback here, a very shallow pullback, confirm this low volume node here, this area of imbalance as support, and then the price would rally up. So nothing's changed since Wednesday. I've already explained this dynamic. I'm just going over it again for some of you guys that might have missed it or that weren't here last week. Wednesday. So that's the two bullish case scenarios. The second one is the bullish case scenario. The first one is the bearish. So I went through the bearish and the bullish. Now the other thing is that we don't go up at all first. We come down, right? So we get up to about here, and we just roll over and come to the lows and start printing a bottom here. Okay, the longer we hover at the bottom of this, then the more likely we are to break to the downside. So we're gonna have to be careful with that and observe what price does. But if we come down here and rally straight back up, that's great news. Okay, that's obviously a big rejection. So a nice little wick like this, that's, you know, it's not necessarily great because obviously you can see here that it just got tested 3 times. We've got a 3-tap clutch there, but usually a nice big wick means absorption, and it does mean that the prices are getting bought, you know, the asset is getting bought at these levels. Okay, what we don't want to see is a slow bleed and sort of like just hovering here at the edge of this balance area. Okay, that means that we break to the downside. And like I explained at the beginning of this video, since there isn't much volume between $20,000 here, this whole area here is basically a void in liquidity. This wick could be a very long wick, which would wreck a lot of people. Even if we were to go back all the way to all-time highs, that would be a disaster for many people. Of course, if we do that, then this sign is a sign of weakness. Of course, if we break all the way down here, it will cause a lot of panic, right? To mid-20s, for instance, or even $20,000. We're likely to see a squeeze. Basically, all these short stops would cascade. You know, that basically all the people that are long have got stop orders down below, right? So if we start forming a bottom here, there's going to be a load of stops put here. All these stops are essentially market sell orders. That's why there's a cascading liquidation. Okay, the cascading liquidation will get onto the next area of liquidity. When it finds that liquidity, it will buy, and because the market maker would have widened its spread and taken their orders off the book so they don't get wrecked, so they don't find themselves offside, what happens is the price travels straight back up again. Okay, so essentially it could just go very quickly back up to this level here and then regain acceptance back within this balance area. And if this is the case, and if this is exactly how it pans out, we want to see this acceptance here. Okay, we want to see the price get back up here so that we've got any chance to go back to 40,000. Otherwise, what might happen is that the price gets up to here, it gets rejected, and then the trouble starts. Okay, and then we might go much lower, and we might end up at $23,000, $20,000. Around about this area here, like I said before to you guys, I do expect this area here to be a high level of, and in fact I would expect this as well, because this has not been tapped. Okay, so I would expect both these areas around about $24,000 and $20,000, 19,000, something like that, to be high probability trades for a bounce, simply because there's residual liquidity there for sure, because it hasn't been tapped yet. So just keep that in mind. In terms of technical analysis update, I don't want to give you sort of like what's going to happen in the next sort of 4 hours or the next 5 hours, because by the time you guys get to watch this on a Sunday, it's all null and void, right? And it's just useless. So I'm just trying to give you a macro view of the things. I'm going to look at the smaller time frames as well in just a minute, but I just wanted to point those things out just to weigh up the possibilities. So again, we are in a balance area. So the most likely scenario, like I said to you guys, the most likely scenario is that we rotate, okay, in between this balance area until we break to either side. I've given you the scenario if we break to the upside, and I've given you the scenario if we break to the downside. So I hope that is clear for you guys. There's not really much else that we can do. I can look at the smaller time frames and see where we're looking for, but like I said, I've put the price action set up here. You guys can pause the video and have a quick look at this, but it's really difficult to try and explain all of this unless you understand the concepts of price action, of pure price action, where I don't use any indicators at all. But essentially I'm just looking at these clusters of consolidation as order blocks, and so basically that's demand, and the clusters above the price are usually supply. So they're just in particular key areas. Okay, I've drawn effectively a range from the tops here, okay, to the bottoms of this range. Okay, so I've got the equilibrium, which is the 0.5, and I've got the swing failure pattern there at the top that confirms the range and deviation. So the deviation here, this is key. Okay, the swing failure pattern is a deviation of the range, and usually what happens is when we see a swing failure pattern like that, we go and visit the other side of the range. So essentially when we get to this side of the range, what we're expecting to see in order to go to the other side, of course, a deviation. Okay, so the deviation could come in a form of a wick, come all the way down here at this untapped liquidity, and just carry on being inside the range. Does that make any sense? I hope you guys understand. Okay, so a deviation from this range is essentially what I'm looking for. So anyway, I'm gonna leave that at that, and let me just delete this, And let's have a look at Exocharts. And I'm going to start with the perhaps with the daily chart. Let's have a look at the weekly actually. Let's have a look at the weekly first. So the weekly chart you can see here on Bitcoin. This is a market profile chart. You can see that we've got some July, a couple of weeks of July. This is basically a composite of market profiles here of 2 weeks that we were kind of trading within the same area, which is obviously around about when we had the last swing low, which is essentially this area here. Okay, so that's where we are here, and guess where the price bounced? To the dollar on the value area high of that. Okay, so there's a value area for that particular market profile, and I mean I can make this a little bit closer. I mean, to the dollar, 32,840. Okay, we haven't quite tapped this naked point of control here at $32,000, so that is a little bit of a worry. And you know, but this is just the weekly, so anyway, I don't want to be sort of like too confusing to give you like concepts like market profile and value areas, but I just wanted you to see that this stuff does really work. Okay, and there's different reference points if you're looking at different data sets. So that's essentially the weekly. I can look at the daily on a market profile as well, and let's start with that. And you can see here that basically what I've got, and I'm just going to zoom out a little bit so that you guys can see if you weren't here last week and on Wednesday. So I've got a VWAP anchored to the last swing high, not the last swing high, but the most significant swing high, which is around about $52,000. Okay, I've anchored a VWAP there, and you can see that the price has been respecting it, and it's just been basically under it ever since. Okay, so where that is actually on right now is around about the $42,000 level. There is also a naked point of control at that in that area. Okay, so it's an anomaly, and there's also the monthly point of control. Okay, this is a composite of the volume profile for the last 4 weeks or the last month, I believe, and that's exactly where the point of control for this range is: $41,800, $42,000. Okay, so in the immediate lower time frames, what I expect is the price to, you've got a few anomalies below. We've got a pull lows here. We've got a naked point of control above and below. And you've also got this big naked point of control, which is a glaringly obvious area, okay? And usually what happens is with these big, glorious, you know, glaringly obvious areas, is that everybody's looking at that, and the overcrowded trade would be perhaps to go to 42k. So you have to counter trade the herds, if you like, the great majority of people. Okay, so if everybody's saying it's going to go up, then I'm usually on the short side, and it's the same thing. If everybody's scared that it's going to go down, I'm usually on the long side. So just bear that in mind. Okay, you can see that above us we've got a very low volume node here, so which is obviously resistance. If we do travel through that, though, it's going to be very, very quick. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit of a rally. Okay, take this naked point of control here at 37,900, something like that, and then attempt to take this low volume area. Especially the weekend, usually you get these little scam pumps. Okay, if we can break above this, then it's very clear that we're going to tap this level here, and then the volume just dries up there as well. Okay, so I don't think that above here is a good idea to go long. Okay, for me, a good idea to go long would be right above $45,000. Okay, I'd look at $43,000 maybe, which is, you know, essentially where this low volume node is here. So if the price comes all the way up here, then I'd be looking for shorts, which is essentially what I've been telling you when we were looking at the volume zones here, that when we get to the top here, right, that's around about $42,000, $43,000. So that's basically what I'm saying. It's exactly the same thing. We get to around about this level, $42,000, and I'll be looking to go short. Okay, that's what I would be doing. I'm not telling you what to do. Again, I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. This is just for education and entertainment purposes. But at these highs, I would be looking for a short because it's very good risk to reward ratio, because there's really very little chance that it goes above 44,000. Even if it does, then it's very it's good risk reward, because obviously you can put your invalidation level, your short stop if you like, very close to where you are. Okay, so it gives you a great ratio, because actually the target would be way down here, right? Perhaps even these poor lows. So in terms of risk reward, this is great. So that's basically why I'm saying that this would be a good short at these highs. Okay, shorting here or longing here, I don't think it's a great area to short or long at these levels. But I'll be interested at fitting the extreme. So if we get down to about 31,000, 30,000, then I'll be looking for what the price is doing down there. That means that we'd have corrected the poor lows and all of these naked point of control here as well. And at the lows of the range, I'll be looking to go long. So that's essentially what we're seeing right now. We are in the middle. It's a little bit of indecision. If I was to be a little bit picky, although this has not really, it doesn't really work on higher time frames, but what I'm seeing here is that the great majority of the volume here, the aggressive participants on Bybit, are selling, okay? Or they're not buying either, they're just kind of flat. You can see here the CVD is pretty much flat, whilst the price is going up. So let me just expand the clusters, okay? And you can see that there, price is going up, and the CVD is pretty much flat, if not going down. Okay, so that's usually a bullish CVD divergence. Now, from personal experience, these don't really work on the higher time frames. They're much better on the lower time frames, but this could be an early sign of absorption. Okay, so if there's effectively no buys at all and predominantly more sells, and the price is not going down, that means that these sellers are getting absorbed, and it's quite likely that this is like holding a ball underwater, and we rally up. Okay, so that's essentially what I'm seeing here on the market profile. I'm just going to reset that so that we don't get lost, and I'm just going to take these lines off. So yeah, on the higher time frames, I'm looking again at daily volume profile here. There is a naked point of control around about $32,400, okay, and there is another one here at around about $33,600, $33,650 actually to be precise. So there's our $42,000 naked point of control that we've been talking about. That's that one up there, and then essentially we've got another two down here. So there's a big void in liquidity all the way down to 26,000. You can see that there. There's not one single naked point of control in between. So big void in liquidity usually, you know, that could cause a little bit of problem, but you know, it's just something to keep in mind. Okay. But I do expect if we see the lower prices, if we go to the lower of the range, I expect these 2 points of control to be taken. So 32,000 is really the level that I'm looking for, and then here is time to pay attention. And if we go below here, then we could go all the way to Goblin Town and end up in the 20,000s, or we can snap straight back up again and continue ranging within this range, which is between 30 and 40. So we'll just have to wait and see. But I wouldn't expect anything to happen over the weekend, as you know, the weekends tend to be a little bit of a no-show, because obviously there's less liquidity in the books. So even though they're volatile, there's less volume. So it's hard to decide if this is a valid move or not. It depends if it's it doesn't really matter if it's down or up. Whatever move happens at the weekend, they usually get faded during the week. So because the big boys are not playing at weekends, the big boys are resting by the pool. So anyway, I think I've talked enough about Bitcoin. I hope everybody's clear on that. Vandal the Priest, you're very welcome. I know that you appreciate it, and it's nice that you guys are here. So anyway, I'm going to move on to Ethereum USD. I think I covered everything on Bitcoin. Ethereum USD, I haven't looked at this for quite some time. Well, since Wednesday. And essentially we're still kind of really pretty much in the same area here. Okay, so nothing burger. We've not really... that's actually something, we see a little spike here to the upside. That was from the FOMC meeting. In fact, we see the same on Bitcoin. There was, again, nothing burger there. You can see a little spike here in terms of volume a couple of days ago from that meeting. This on the lower time frames was a little bit more dramatic, I believe. I think it was this one here. See a nice big spike to the upside, and then a nice big dump like that. But essentially we're kind of trading within the same range again. So anyway, Ethereum USD, we are sorry, I digressed a little bit there. So we are trading basically inside of this volume cluster. You can see that in context we've got a couple, in context with this volume cluster, we've got a level here, a green level, which is basically where the low volume node is, at around about $2,000. I do expect that to act as support. And then we've also got the point of control about $1,800. Okay, so I can put a little line there if you like. make that green. And so there we are. Okay, of course above us we've got around about $2,800, between $2,800 and $3,000 we've got this area of low volume. Okay, so essentially this low volume area here. So again, very similar to Bitcoin, the same thing. Okay, so if we are to see the prices go up to the upside, this is a good area for a short, unless we can break above and reclaim this area here, okay, which means that we then go up. If we cannot do that and we start sort of rolling over like this, then this is an entry for a short, and we're going to go much lower. It's as simple as that. I know it sounds a little bit easier than what it actually is. Obviously on the smaller time frames there's a few more discrepancies, but on the big time frames, on the daily if you like, or even on the 4-hour chart, you can see that this is exactly what happens. Yes, so essentially what we want to see the price, for it to be bullish, we want to see the price of Ethereum get reclaimed above $3,000, and then all we have to do is break above this market structure here around about $3,400. That would be a breaking market structure, since we'll be printing a higher high. Okay, if we print a higher high, then even if we come down below it, then we get rejected here. So essentially doing something like this, higher high. Even if we come all the way down here, we would hopefully find support and get rejected from this balance area, and then just move back up. Okay, so that's the bullish case scenario. The bearish case scenario, like I said to you guys, is essentially either coming here and rolling over, or even if we go all the way up here, then we get stopped and basically rolls over and comes all the way down again. And that's basically it for Ethereum USD. That's the imbalance area. We want to either get rejected there, so we got a clear sign to short, or we can break above it and then use it as support and do an SR flip, which is support resistance flip for those of you who don't know, and essentially just stay above that $3,000 level. If we manage to do that over the weekend, then Monday is going to be a very interesting Monday for Ethereum, and we'll have to see if we've got enough strength to break above this market structure. That's what I'm seeing on Ethereum USD. I can have a quick look at Exocharts as well. Let's start here with the higher time frames. You can see that we've got, like, we're kind of still within the balance. We've also got a couple of points of control, especially around about here. $2,000 is the last one. There's a bit of a gap in terms of liquidity here, but essentially we've got 3 more naked points of control somewhere between 1,300 and 1,600, but I don't think we're going to go see those prices just yet. The $1,800 level is basically the point of control, and this point of control should act as support if we were to come all the way down here. But of course, all this depends on Bitcoin and what Bitcoin is doing, and we all know that it doesn't matter how bullish Ethereum looks. If Bitcoin decides to have a little fart, it's just everything else just goes down with it. So okay, so basically this is a composite volume area here, and this is effectively just all of these profiles merged. Okay, so it's about 6 profiles. So it's basically the whole of the last week we've been inside of this area here. So we've got the value area high and the value area low. Okay, so today's price action, you can see that we're very much going from value area low to value area high, and this, we haven't even got to the value area high yet actually. Value area low, and we've just stayed within today's value area high, okay, which is also the point of control for the month, right, around about $2,400. For me, if we are so close to the point of control here, this is a no trade. Okay, this is the fair value, if you like. Okay, this is where the most volume is being traded, which means in terms of market participation, this is where most traders agree it's a fair price. Okay, both sellers and buyers, and so the price will just kind of rotate within here and chop. So I'm not interested in buying until we get down to these lows. Okay, and I'm not interested in selling until we get to these highs. If we look at the higher prices, just in case we do decide to pump a little bit, we've got a naked point of control here around about 2,850, and we've got another one around about 3,124. So if we were to do that thing where Bitcoin goes up to 42k and does a swing fairly pattern there, then I expect these 2 targets to get taken. Of course, it will travel very quickly through there because this is a very low volume area, and if this gets around by Bitcoin, which it usually does, then I wouldn't be surprised to see these get taken out very, very quickly. If we can get to that one, that's a different story. I don't know about that yet. I think we'd probably get rejected around about here, $2,000, $3,000, something like that. But I've seen weirder things, so it is possible that Ethereum just gets a bit of a hard on and goes all the way to $3,150. Targets to the downside, I guess we can't see here because it's not enough price history. Oh yes, there is. That's great. I love Exocharts. So there's a little bit of price history here. You can see there's naked points of control around about this area. So there's one around about $1,800. There's another one at $1,985 and another one at $2,050. Okay, so these are the levels that I would expect to the downside if Bitcoin decides to have a little dump. As you can see, that's quite a little while away. It's fairly away, as we are at $2,400. But you know, when Bitcoin decides to have a little moment to the downside, you know that it drags everything down with it. So now you've got targets to the downside, you've got targets to the upside, even though these are a little bit more apart. But essentially, what we have to keep in mind is that this is a very low volume area to the upside. Okay, and as a result of that, it will continue to act as resistance until further notice. If we do break it to the upside, it will travel very quickly. It'll perhaps even come all the way to this second naked point of control at around about $3,100, and then I think it rolls over. But we'll have to wait and see and watch this a little bit more closely. Okay, so that's essentially what I'm seeing here on the session profile on Ethereum. I can see that there's a little bit of a bullish divergence. Again, the CVD is kind of pretty much flat, where you know most of the participants are still printing lower lows, and yet the price, we did print a lower low here, but from this one to this one, we've printed a lower low here, and yet the price is going up. Okay, so I think there's a little bit of absorption, so this could actually indicate that there's a strong move coming. So we could come all the way up to here to around about $2,600 at least, and then maybe take these levels here, 2,800, 2,900, but we'll have to see. This is just a session profile, so I wouldn't put as much importance on this. It's not as visible, if you like, as the daily market profile, if that makes any sense. There's more people watching this daily than there is people watching the session. So that is it for Ethereum USD on Exocharts. Let's have a quick look at Ethereum BTC. Ethereum BTC, like I said before, we've entered this volume cluster here. We've come and tested the top, gone all the way to the bottom. We've basically finally firmed up that balance. So now what I expect here, we're still very much in the same place, is essentially what I've drawn there, which is basically just a price going up to the point of control and then coming down here and testing the lows of this high volume cluster. Okay, perhaps even the edge of this volume cluster. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a little deviation out of here and then just get back in line and get back within this high volume cluster here. Okay, of course we could fall out of this, and if we fall out of that one, if we do fall out of this balance area here, then the next balance area will be somewhere between here and here, and we do something like that. Okay, but like I said, I do expect the price to do something like this for now, even if we have a deviation here to the downside, or especially if we got a deviation to the downside. And we could also break above and Ethereum starts outperforming Bitcoin, and somewhere between those two ranges. So as you can see, this balance area can be split into two because there's a point of control straight down the middle. Okay, so that's essentially what I'm seeing for Ethereum versus BTC. And you could pause the video in a minute and you can watch these, pause the video and watch these prices, so I don't have to go. It's around about 80,000 sats at the top, and around about 65,000 sats at the bottom. Also, you can see here that there is very little volume below on the Ethereum BTC chart, and so if we fall out of the lower range, which is essentially this range here, if we fall below 56,000 sats, 55,000 sats, then we are in serious trouble for Ethereum, and it will very quickly, I believe it will travel as quickly as it did here to go all the way back down to 31,000 sats. Okay, so this would be an amazing trade to get the price to go all the way down here. So just keep that in mind. It's worth observing the price when we are at these levels, but I think by Monday we should have a little bit of a clearer direction where we're going. But even if not, then I'll keep a close eye on this, so I'll keep you guys alert anyway. So that's essentially Ethereum versus BTC. I hope everybody's clear. In the eventuality that we go to the upside and Bitcoin decides to drag everything up with it, this will go up to the upside along with Bitcoin. But this is a Bitcoin versus ETC chart, so could actually just go sideways here. Okay, so unless we've got a severe dump on Bitcoin, and then Ethereum could get outperformed by Bitcoin and carry on being outperformed by Bitcoin and kind of like dump even harder. But I don't expect the price to break below this area just yet. Okay, so let's just wait and see, or at least I hope not. But yeah, let's just wait and see. So let's have a quick look at FODL versus USDC. I'm not going to bother with the FODL USDT chart from OKX simply because there's so many wicks on there, and it's a little bit of a I don't know if it's pump and dump, or it's difficult to chart that one because it's got so many wicks, so it's a little bit deceiving. Anyway, we can see here on FODL versus USDC, this is on sushiswap, I believe. Yes, it's on sushiswap. And on the daily chart, you can see that we broke below the point of control. I already highlighted this for you guys on Wednesday. And we are kind of like we've kind of printed here a ledge in terms of volume. So there is willingness to buy at these levels. I'm going to put the volume bars there just to see where we are. But there's plenty of selling going on here, okay? So there's a little bit of buying coming in. But I think with all the fear that's happening right now, with everything that's happening in decentralized finance markets and the DeFi, with a few shady characters and rug pulls and all of these nasty scenarios that are happening. So I think people are a little bit cautious of buying onto DeFi, especially with the whole macro view on the markets being a little bit bearish. I think everybody's just being a little bit cautious, and this is why we're not seeing any bidding. So a lot of asking and a lot of people selling, but not so much bidding. So but this is basically where we make most money. When there's blood on the streets is where basically people with big bucks and people that are rich, they're not rich because they got lucky, although some might have done. They usually get rich because they're opportunists. They know when to buy and they know when to sell. And this for me is a good opportunity to buy, especially because I know how much they've got on the pipeline and how much work's happening behind the scenes. Anyway, make of that what you will. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not telling you what to do with your money. So what I see here in terms of is basically the same as Wednesday. In terms of support, we've got 15 cents, and we've also got 10 cents. And I'm going with big round numbers because basically this volume profile is not telling me anything, and we are almost at all-time lows if you discount this big green candle, right? So essentially this is price discovery. We don't know where it will go, so we just go with big round numbers. So you can go 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, and so on, or you can just stay within sort of 5 denominations, 0.5 denominations. So for example, 15, 10, and so on. Okay, so that's essentially what I'm saying. If we do break above this point of control here, which is at 17 cents, then I do expect this to start acting as support again, and the next level of resistance will be these ones here. Okay, if you're not sure what these are, either go and look at the previous video or pause this video, and then you can see and you can copy these levels. Again, first level of resistance 20 cents, first level of support is 15 cents. So that's FODL versus USDC. Let's do FODL versus ETH. I forgot about this one last week. So we've had a little bit of a drop here. We fell out of the point of control area. You can see that there was clear accumulation at these levels. You can see here nice big green candles here, but I don't know what happened here. There's very sustained selling here, significant selling at these levels. I don't know why, or if it's something to do with market dynamics, or if it's some fundamental issue with that. I don't know, but essentially what I'm saying is that people are stepping in to buy right now, even though reluctantly, and this is still looking like we didn't even touch this low volume area down here. Okay, so basically we've still got all these levels of support here untapped, and we want to see those levels get tapped if you want to buy cheap. Of course, if you already bought at these levels, then perhaps you should do a little bit of dollar cost averaging, or you're going to wait until the prices get up to this level again and then start tapping at this resistance. Again, you can pause the video, have a look at levels of support and resistance, and just go from there. Okay, I do expect this point of control here to be another point of resistance. So in fact, I'm going to move this one here, and I'm going to move this slightly there, and I think this is a little bit more accurate. Okay, so there you go. You guys can pause the video and have a look at that. So that's FODL versus WETH, wrapped ETH, if you like. So let's have a look at AAVE versus US dollar. AAVE versus US dollar, we are pretty much just rotating. There's not really much in a change of we're just kind of rotating sideways between a range. Okay, so this is interesting. If you guys are trading on AAVE versus USD, you can see that there's two clear ranges here. There's support at $130 and there's resistance at $160. So you could essentially, let me just delete this here a minute. You could essentially just be trading this back and forth. Okay, it will work until it doesn't, and we will probably break to either side. But if it does, then you know that you've got a level of support down here. So obviously this favors shorts, and we've also got a level of resistance up here. So you'll have to wait and see where the buyers are stepping in. Of course, this is $99, $100 that I expect there's going to be quite a lot of interest of people buying at these levels. And then around about $190, $200, there's also, I don't doubt for a minute that there's going to be a few sellers there. So, but you know, the smaller range, if you like, is between $130 and $160. So if you like range trading, this is the bread and butter of trading. This is really, really easy money. Basically, you know where the sellers are, you know where the buyers are. You just don't take trades in the middle. Wait for the extremes. Okay. Again, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just telling you what I've given you an insight into what I do as trading. In terms of direction, what I see this happening is continuation, essentially. Unless Bitcoin starts breaking market structures and going to the upside and making moves, this will essentially carry on doing exactly the same as what Bitcoin does. Okay, so even if we rally up to this range here, okay, we could find ourselves breaking above this line here at around $160, and then the next level will be $190. So we could start ranging here, we could carry on ranging here, or if we break to the downside, then this is going to be a wider range here, okay? And then we'll have to wait and see which side do we break it to. Do we go back to the middle, do we go back to the lower range, or back to the higher range? That is effectively what, you know, what trading is. So you'll just have to wait and see and observe this. I don't think nothing special is going to happen over the weekend, although there is going to be more volatility because there's less liquidity in the books. So just keep that in mind. But essentially, we're just kind of ranging. Okay, so that's AAVE versus USD, AAVE versus BTC. Again, the same thing is happening here, where this is a big volume cluster here. So that's why I've got this rectangle on the outside. In context, we've got a smaller, more compact range on the inside, which also formed an order block here, and the price is bouncing on that. Okay, so let's just not make this very confusing. I just wanted to highlight this volume here, and you can see here that there's a nice order block, and that's exactly where the price has been bouncing. Even if we bounce here, because I expect continuation with Bitcoin going down, I do expect the price that even if Bitcoin rallies to 42k, I do expect the price to come and test these highs here. Because these altcoins tend to outperform Bitcoin a little bit, and everybody gets super excited. But I don't expect price to get much higher than this. Okay, of course I'm willing to be wrong about this, but I do think that this is what we're going to do. Okay, even if we rally up first, we're going to curl over and come and test the lower boundary of this volume profile. Of course, we might not even go all the way up there. This could just do a slow bleed and come all the way to the bottom there. Okay, I do expect a little bit of a reaction at this level here, which is essentially this low volume node there, but this is basically what I'm seeing. If, however, these altcoins start rallying versus Bitcoin, and Bitcoin goes to 42k and then starts going sideways, then there's a strong possibility that this will start testing higher levels. So again, if we gain acceptance above this level here and confirm this imbalance here as support, then of course that we go test this level here. But I don't expect this. This is a less likely scenario in my opinion. But if we do, then we could also start ranging here. Okay, as you can see here, that's exactly what we did for quite some time, for the whole beginning of 2021. So that's what I'm saying for Ethereum BTC. I hope that is clear for you guys. I do expect prices to go lower and carry on going lower, continuation, print lower lows and lower highs. But if we do see a little bit of a rally this weekend, a scam pump if you like with Bitcoin, then I don't expect the price to get much above 5,600 sats. If it does, then obviously we want to see this reclaim and we want to see a bounce off of that. Okay, so that's AAVE versus BTC. AAVE versus ETH is going to be very much the same thing. As you can see here, we've kind of tested this low vol. I had a little rectangle there. This is essentially just a little bounce. It was just an order block that I took from there. But you can see now that this is support. It's been acting as support, and as long as it does, it'll do its job. Okay, if the price rallies up versus ETH, I do still expect to break, to not break the market structure, to not get above that that red line there, and just kind of roll over and die. Basically, that's what I'm seeing. I don't see these coins being stronger than the majors because the majors are still being, they're in charge, if you like. So again, I do expect the price to just continue to the downside and basically retrace the whole of this inefficiency here. If it does go up because of Bitcoin or whatever, then I don't expect the price to get much higher than this red level here. Okay, at this level here, I'd be looking for short. Of course, I'm willing to be wrong and if for some reason it will start getting bullish, it will look something like this. We'll be hovering at resistance, okay, and then eventually break it to the upside. So that's the first sign of strength. But at the moment I'm not seeing any of that. I'm just seeing lower lows and lower highs, okay. So I expect this to just fizzle out and go back to this range here, okay. Of course we could be trading in this range here as well, or this one, and so we'll just have to wait and see where we trade, okay. So again, from here we could go and do this, we could do this one here, or we could even do this one. Alright, so just divide this into ranges, find your levels of support and resistance, and then just trade level to level. That's AAVE versus ETH. Let's have a look at compound versus USD. Yeah, so we're still going to the downside. Of course, there's a low volume node there. This low volume node, just going to delete that, is been acting as a little bit of a friction level. So, you know, basically we're kind of like going to the lows and getting bought up again at around about $120. This was essentially a level that I was expecting to be support. I'm going to change these as resistance as we've fallen so much below it. And this is basically, I think it's all to do, this has all happened in the sort of like in the last sort of week or so. And this is basically just a lack of trust in the markets, if you like. So these best 130, 150, 170, 200 and 236 are now levels of resistance because they are above price, and we are essentially inside of this big volume cluster, okay. I do expect price to visit the lows here around about $90 and $100. So at these levels I'd be interested perhaps in buying, and I do think that it's going to bring visibility to more traders around about these levels. People might be interested in buying, okay. Also, I had highlighted at the beginning here, this level here, this particular level at $200 is essentially where this point of control is, so I expect strong resistance there. It's also where the previous high is, the previous swing high. So even if the price was going to rally, I think that's the level where it turns around and comes and prints a lower low. So just to keep in mind, okay. Of course, I do think that first we go down, all right. I don't think that we're going to go up unless Bitcoin decides to go and take that 42k level. But I'm not getting too much, my hopes up too much, essentially. So that's compound versus USD. Compound versus BTC. Again, very much the same. This is going to be the predominant thing with all of these altcoins, is that they basically just follow Bitcoin. It doesn't matter what trading analysis you do. If you look at the fundamentals, the mechanics and everything else, all of these coins are basically being dragged around by Bitcoin. If Bitcoin goes down, these coins get dragged down. It doesn't matter what technical instrument or technical analysis and indicator is telling you. If it's telling you it's going to go up but Bitcoin goes down, I can guarantee you the fucking shitcoin will go down. So just bear that in mind. None of this TA is really valid unless you guys are paying attention to Bitcoin. So it's very, very important. I keep saying this, but it's super important. So essentially, compound versus Bitcoin. Compound here at all-time lows. Price discovery mode right now. So I would expect 300 sats, 250 sats, and then 200 sats to hold. And then, you know, it depends of how well they hold. But big round numbers, you know, the brain likes to see that. So most traders will be looking at those levels, and perhaps that's where you'll see the bounce. But when you are at price discovery, that means that, you know, it could go anywhere. You really don't have any reference points. If you know a little bit about the Fibonacci, you can use certain things like, for example, the trend-based fib extension, and you can do something like swing low to swing high. Oh yeah, hang on, I just made a mistake there. Swing low to swing high. No, made a mistake. Swing high to swing low. You can see how often I use these. I don't use these very often at all. Okay, swing high to swing low to that swing high there, although I've put it over there, but you can see what I'm doing here. Okay, and you can use these to gauge where the next levels are. Okay, so you can see here it kind of lines up a little bit, but you can use these basically for confluence and to see where the next targets are. But I think this is a little bit arbitrary. In price discovery mode, then for me round numbers is where it's at. So just bear that in mind, okay? Compound versus BTC. Compound looking very bearish versus BTC, even though BTC looks like shit. So just bear that in mind. Compound versus ETH, very much the same thing. We can't even break above the next level of resistance. You can see that we were at all-time lows. We kind of broke a little bit of market structure, but we could not sustain it, and the price just came down again. And here we are. It looks like we're going to print a new lower low. For the time being, this green level here is a level of support. So around about 481 way. If this level doesn't hold, then again we're in price discovery mode, and then you should look at 400 way, 350, 300, and so on. Okay, so that's compound versus ETH, also looking very bearish compared to Ethereum. Basic attention token BAT versus USD. Interesting. So we are actually right on. So let me just delete all of this brush. Okay. So essentially what I said is that this is level of support. This is basically where we bounced, and now we have to wait and see if we can get acceptance back above to this range here, okay, which is essentially this high volume cluster. We're not seeing that right now, so far we've had 2 taps of that and we've been rejected. This is the rectangle here. This red rectangle is essentially a low volume area, the complete low volume area, as you can see there. And so this is resistance until proven otherwise, okay? So either the price breaks above it and confirms this as support, which then this would be the target here. You'd enter along here and you'd be targeting that area, or we get rejected here and we come and test this one and perhaps even this one down here, okay? So essentially we could then be ranging here, or we could be ranging here, all right? Or even both. We could start doing like a wide range like that, but usually after a big move like this you see a sort of a tighter range, so just bear that in mind. But again, this is the daily chart, so I don't expect big swings in prices like that unless there's big moves on Bitcoin. But essentially we are testing at resistance right now. So this, you know, we're at the height of the big volume cluster here, so a rejection here would be a very good short. However, acceptance above means a very good long. So we are at the inflection point, if you like, and this is a great opportunity. I like fading the extreme, so make of that what you will. I'm not going to give you any financial advice on this one. You can make up your own mind. If you've been paying attention, you know what I would do here. So anyway, that's basic attention token. I do expect the price to perhaps roll over and die here and go all the way down to 40 cents, 45 cents. But yeah, it's impossible to say if we're going to test the highest first or not. But you can see here, we had a nice little range inside of this high volume cluster, and that's essentially, we're testing the high of that one, okay? So make of that what you will. That's around about 95 cents, $1. That's basically the resistance, and then support is around about 50 cents and 65 cents. So that's basic attention token versus USD. BAT versus BTC. Let's have a look. Well, it does look like BAT wants to outperform Bitcoin right now. It's doing well since Bitcoin is just going sideways or down, and Bitcoin's going up and BAT is going up. So you can see here a little bit of a recovery here. Nothing extraordinary or anything like that, but essentially this level here is still a level of resistance. If we could break above that and break this market structure here, then I'd be a little bit more convinced. But until then, this to me just is still lower highs and lower lows. So essentially we go up to here and then come back and either test this level here, this area here, as a range, or we could perhaps drop down here, or even drop down to this one here, or even a combination of the two in a wider range, but those are less likely. Like I said, I do prefer these tighter ranges, so just bear that in mind. You can pause the video as well and you've got some levels of support and resistance that you can copy onto your chart. But yeah, essentially range trading for this right now, unless something crazy happens with basic attention token. Yeah, so we've broken market structure. This is looking a little bit more bearish, so I'd be more inclined to think that even though this is going up, for me, we're going to come back down again and perhaps even test these ranges down here, okay? So just keep that in mind. That's essentially what I'm seeing, okay? Come up here and then come low. So that's basic attention token versus Bitcoin. Let's have a look at BAT versus ETH. Essentially exactly the same thing. We are at resistance. We've kind of just wicked up, but we couldn't break above it. That is a little bit of a break in market structure here, as we printed a higher high there. So I would like to see, this was also a break in market structure with a lower low. So let's just wait and see what happens here. Of course, if this now prints a higher low and then goes and prints a higher high again, then that's basically that's continuation, and the trend is up in basic attention token versus Ethereum. But right now, if we were to look in terms of where we're going to go immediately, okay, we've reached a high, so now we possibly test a low. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with the meme of the perpetual motion of smaller and smaller cycles like this, right? It looks like we've just gone up, and even though it's not the high as that one, so perhaps here or even this one here, we're on the up. So now we need to go back down before we go back up again. So essentially I'd like to see something like this and then go back up again. So I hope that you guys understand the meme, and I hope that makes any sense to you guys. But here I'm expecting that this is resistance, so I expect the price to go low. How low is a different story altogether, and of course we've got some levels of support here, and you got some levels of resistance above. So I hope that is clear for you guys. So that was BAT versus ETH. Let's have a look at Link versus USD. I can't believe I just said a lunk. Let's have a lunk. Okay. Well, we are hovering at that level of support here. Let me just delete this scribble from last week, from Wednesday. We are at this level here as a level of support. We kind of trailed below it as well, but we've just had a nice little wick here. You can see here, nice uptick. So the price is going up. So now we're going to test this level here. This is a level of resistance. This is also a level of resistance, and so is this one. This would be the previous low. This is, I can delete this now actually. This is a market structure break. So for me, this was higher highs and higher lows. Once we broke that one, that's a lower low, and that's a break in market structure. So essentially what I'm looking for right now on Link versus USD is a test of the highs before we roll over. So we could come here and roll over, or we can even come all the way up to the top here and then roll over. So now it depends. If we come all the way up to the top, we could be ranging here and do something like this, or we could just go dub straight down and come down. Okay, so you just have to keep that in mind. But at these levels here, I'd be looking to fade this and to go in a short. But of course there's no guarantee that we go up first. Okay, of course we can just go straight down from here, and we could just get a little bit here like this and then just carry on going down. So it really depends on what Bitcoin's doing. The interesting thing for Link is that there's plenty of consolidation in this area here. So I do expect the price to find significant support in these areas. Okay, and perhaps even if it goes down here, you can see how quick it was to get out of this area. Okay, although this is support, I do expect the price to wick out very quickly and carry on in this area. So between $10 and $15, if that makes any sense. Okay, so that's essentially Link versus USD. Let's have a look at Link versus BTC. Well, Link looks like it basically retraced that whole move. Okay, we've also lost this point of control, and we're not retesting that. Okay, so for me this is resistance. I'm going to put the little level there. I'm going to put that as resistance, and it's resistance until proven otherwise. So 4,200 sats, well, 4,215 is where we're at. So 4,285, 4,300 sats is basically resistance for me. Big level as well, because it's the point of control. So let's wait and see if we can break above this. You can see the last time we broke above it and then confirmed that as support, it rallied massively. Okay, so but we retraced the whole thing and now we're below it. So essentially if we can't get above these levels here, then I expect this level here, which is a low volume area, to act as support, and then we kind of range between these levels here. Okay, that's essentially what it is. You've got levels of support, you've got levels of resistance. You can pause the video and take note of those if you like. So that's Link versus BTC. I do expect Link to come down now. Okay, so just to be clear, I think Link looks bearish compared to BTC, even though BTC looks like shit. Very much like the rest of all of these coins in a whole. Okay, so that's essentially it. This is Link versus ETH. and we are kind of below this balance here, this area of resistance. Even though we're testing up, I don't see this going much higher. I think that this is basically what we're doing. We just go sideways now. If, however, we break above it, this range is a possibility, that range is a possibility, and also down here is a range is a possibility. I would like to think that if we break below these lows here, then this point of control here would hold as support, okay? This ultimately, this level here would hold as support as well. That's why I highlighted it, because it's a low volume node in context. But it's very unlikely that we get to see those prices just yet, at least not before Monday. So we'll have to keep a close eye on this. I'm going to leave these scribbles on so we can have a look at them next week and see if I was right or wrong, but that's essentially what's going on. So again, I do think that Chainlink versus Ethereum is looking a little, although we've got a little bit of an uptick here, I could see this just quite clearly just going here, printing a lower high, and then just either rotate sideways or even lose it completely and go back to this level here. So I hope that makes it clear. Okay, so even if we go all the way up here, I expect price to come back down. So again, bearish versus Ethereum, okay, like most of these coins. Finally, let's have a look at Uniswap. I think Uniswap's taking a bit of a battering. There's a few rumors and things going on and happening with a few bad characters on decentralized finance, but it's actually not holding up too badly. This is a low volume area here, as you can see, big low volume area on this volume profile. The price has been holding as expected. If we do see a bounce, I expect the bounce will find a little bit of trouble around about here, about $15, and I would be very surprised to see it break above this. Even if we broke above this and started rotating up here, I do expect this $19, $20 level to act as strong resistance. So $15, $20. We are right now around about $10, which is obviously a low volume node, and it's not surprising that the price is holding, because again, it's a big round number. So yeah, just keep that in mind. This is the predictability of the herd. Okay, so most people like to trade in round numbers, and that's essentially why we see these numbers getting respected. So god damn it. So yeah, so next levels of support, of course, $10 is a level of support. Next levels of resistance are around about here, 12, 14, 16, and $20. And then you've got levels of support at $8 and also at $5. And then below that, we've got $3 and $5, and this is a big range. If we find ourselves all the way down here, I think that this would be the range to trade, and this is a nice big range. I could make a living just of trading this range, okay? Buying at the lows, selling at the highs. That's all I'm going to say. So just bear that in mind and look for ranges in some of these coins. That's the easiest way to make money trading. Not financial advice, of course. So Uniswap versus US dollar, looking a little bit bearish, but I think, again, if we were to look at the meme of the eternal cycles, okay, we are essentially at the low. We've already had a pullback low, okay? So the pullback low, we've hit that consolidation there. We're a big round number, so I think that the market is likely to go up, even though it's bearish and even though we're likely to print a lower high. Is that clear? I hope that's clear. So essentially, I believe that we are kind of somewhere down here, okay? So on the low of the curve, all right? So that's all I'm going to say. So I do think that the price has got room to run here to around about $14, $15, if we can get above 12. So of course, this could just come up to here and then just roll over. So you'll have to observe the price and just see what happens. But yeah, I do expect this here, unless there's a lot of FUD in the market, I do expect this to go up before it goes down, okay? So that's Uni versus USD, Uni versus Bitcoin. Okay, so Uni is definitely being outperformed by Bitcoin, even though Bitcoin is looking like shit. And now we've entered a big balance area. This is a very weird distribution, admittedly. You can see that these levels here are essentially low volume nodes within this little distribution. The distribution is jagged and horrible and dented, but yeah, this level is still support, basically around about 2,600 sats, and then we've got 2,200 sats as well as level of support. But these levels above are now resistance, and they start at the 2,800 sats to 3,000 and so on. Essentially what we're seeing here now is that we've got a big low volume area here, which I'm going to put as red. low volume area that will act as resistance even if we go back to the upside. So in the eventuality that uni does decide to go up because we're on a down cycle and it goes up, I do think that we'll find resistance in this area here and then just roll over. Okay, so that's basically what I'm seeing right now. So you'll have to keep an eye on this over the weekend if the moves are volatile, but at least now you've got a little bit of guidance and you've got a few levels of interest, if you like. You know where to look in order to take profits and in order to change your trades around. Okay, so that's uni versus BTC. Uni versus ETH, very much the same thing. We've already had a little move to the downside. We could see potentially more to the downside, but I'm more inclined to see that this is going to go up first. Okay, so if we do go up first, it needs to outperform Ethereum in order to print a candle, a green candle. So we are at a low volume area. This should act as support. So on the edge of this, and even if we go all the way down here, I do expect the price to go up. Okay, essentially then, do we print a lower high and this high here, or do we break market structure and print a higher high? That's what we'll have to see. If it prints a higher high, then it's very likely that we start rotating here like this, maybe even rotating above. Alright, if we cannot print a higher high than this one, then it's likely that we go to the downside and we start going sideways here, and maybe even go to the downside and print some all-time lows. Okay, so you'll have to keep that in mind and you'll have to watch this yourself. I cannot predict, I've got no crystal ball, but right now my inclination is that we've already had a swing to the downside. Everybody's going to be jumping on this to go short, and I think that the first move will be to the upside. So that's essentially it. Okay, just fade the extreme. Big moves to the upside, you enter shorts. Big moves to the downside, you enter longs. That's what you should do, and that is financial advice. Okay, just joking, I'm not a financial advisor. So we've reached the end of the technical analysis update. I don't see any questions in the chat, so I hope this was useful to you guys. I've been talking for about an hour and 15 minutes, so I do apologize for that, but I hope it's useful. Again, remember that the weekend is very volatile because there's less liquidity in the markets. None of these coins and none of this TA is valid at all unless Bitcoin is playing ball, because basically Bitcoin is the barometer, and all of these coins will go to shit if Bitcoin decides that it's going to go down. Okay, even if this looks really bullish, if Bitcoin decides to have a dump, this is going to follow suit. There's no two ways about it. So just keep an eye on that. Of course, if you're not trading, then good on you. Have a nice weekend. Go spend some time with families, go outside, get some fresh air, and yeah, look after yourselves. And I'll speak to you guys. I'll be back on Monday with another TA update, and I'll try and do it again at around about 3 or 4 p.m. Just after the New York session opens. Okay, so thanks for watching. I'll speak to you guys soon. Take care. Have a nice weekend.